Okay, but probably some bit of muscle memory there and some of the poses and things might be familiar. Okay, that's good to know. Great. We'll find yourselves a space, just facing this way. And if you have got water with you, if you just want to make sure that you've got that to hand. I don't kind of stop and give water breaks, but if you've got it close by, then feel free to just stop and take a drink whenever you need to. And then, if you're comfortable taking socks off, it's just a little bit better for grip on the mat with your socks off. If you want to keep your socks on, that's absolutely fine, but just be careful when we come into any poses where we're spreading the weight, where it might get a little bit slippery. And then when you're ready, if you just want to join me, sat on your mat, if you can cross your legs, crossing your legs. If you find that a bit uncomfortable, you can choose an alternative seated position. If anyone finds that they're comfortable sitting cross legs, but you feel like you're rocking back, I think we've got some blocks here. In the corner here, I'm going to show you. So anyone feels they need it. The blocks are just quite useful for just helping get the right posture. So if you're feeling like when you're sat with your legs crossed, so just turn to the side so you can see, you feel like you're rolling back and you're not able to sit up tall, you might want to just place a block underneath your bottom. You can also do that from the towel if you're at home and doing this at home, anything like that, and just place it underneath your bottom to lift your hips a little higher, and that just allows your pelvis to tip into the right position so that you're sitting tall. Okay, so for those of you, I don't recognise any faces from last week. Oh, yes I do, Amazon, hi. For anybody that wasn't here last week, my name is Naomi. I'm going to be teaching this this class now until Christmas. So it's a beginner's yoga session. We're going to do some breathing exercises, warm ourselves up, learn a little sequence, working through some of the main yoga poses. And then we'll also do some relaxation and mindfulness at the end of our session as well, which is a really important part of the practice. Just making sure before we begin, as I said, you've got your water to hand. Please take a water break whenever you need to. And also we will be probably wrapping warm layers at the end just to make sure nobody gets cold. So if you haven't got anything with you today, just bear in mind for future weeks, just to bring something you can just wrap around yourself to make sure you don't get cold for the relaxation at the end, which is quite important after working hard. You want to keep those muscles warm. Okay, so let's begin. Sorry, we're a little bit late starting again this week, but we'll just go on. So starting with our seated position. And before we begin, this sounds a bit strange, but I'd just like you to see whether or not you can feel the connection through your pelvis down into the floor. And a way to help us with that is just to remove the fleshy part of your bottom out from underneath you. So just pull out the bottom cheeks so that you can really connect down into the floor through the pelvis. And then from here, we're going to think about sitting tall. So I want you to imagine the vertebrae running up through the center of your body, stacking the vertebrae of your spine, one on top of the other, all the way up, and then continuing that through the neck, up into the head, and imagine reaching up towards the sky from the crown of your head. So we're not looking up, keeping a nice neutral spine by looking straight out ahead. And then also just concentrating on relaxing those shoulders down and away from the ears. Quite often we end up letting those shoulders draw up towards the ears, creating lots of tension in the top of the back and the shoulders. So I really want you to focus on letting those shoulders relax down. And we're just going to slightly think about opening the chest as well, just the gentle open of the chest. Get that really lovely, upright, seated posture. And then from here, to help us focus and bring our minds and our bodies together, we're going to start with some deep breaths. So we're just going to take 3 big inhales and exhales, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. If you want to close your eyes to help you focus here, feel free. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, that's absolutely fine. So we're going to begin breathing in as deeply as you can, all the way to the bottom of your lungs, through the nose, and then a nice slow and controlled out breath through the mouth. And we'll do it 3 times together. Here we go. Big deep breath in, sitting tall. Breathing down to the bottom of the lungs. Breathing in. And breathing out, nice and slow and controlled through the mouth. Letting all of that air go. And going again. And this time see if you can lengthen that breath a little bit. Can you breathe a little bit longer, a little bit deeper into those lungs with that in-breath? And breathing out through the mouth. Nice and slow and controlled, so we're not releasing all the breath at once. We're controlling that out breath all the way down. And last time, again, see if you can make it that little bit longer. And as you're breathing in, try to make sure you're not letting those shoulders rise towards the ears. Relaxing shoulders. And then breathing out, nice and slow and controlled out breath. And then just allowing your breath to fall back into a nice, even, natural rhythm. And just notice whether those breaths are feeling a little bit deeper and a little bit longer now. Especially if you felt like maybe you were in a little bit of a rush to get here today. Those deep breaths might have just started to bring a little bit of calm to the body. It's also just a really helpful thing to do to bring ourselves in connection with our bodies, thinking about the rhythm of the breath, coming in and out. And then before we begin today, I'd just like you to take a moment to check in with your body and your mind. So let's start with the body, and I just want you to notice whether there's any tight spots in the body today, whether you've come with any particular aches or pains, whether your body is feeling tired, maybe you've had a really physical day today, or perhaps you're feeling like you need a bit of energy in the body. If it's been a slow day, perhaps you've been stuck at a desk all day, and you're feeling like you need a little bit of energy running through the body. Just check in with your body, notice how that's feeling for you today. And then take your attention to your mind, and just notice how you've come into the room today, how you're feeling, whether you've got lots of thoughts running through your head, whether you're thinking about plans for the rest of the evening, the rest of the week, or whether you've come with a calm mind. Just check in with yourself and pay attention. And then we'll do this again towards the end of the session. And I'd just like you at the end to notice if there's any differences in the body and the mind. And then just bringing your attention back to your breath one more time, noticing the rise and fall of your chest, the sensation of the air passing in and out. Starting to feel the combination of relaxing, but also bringing a bit of energy to the body. So we're still sitting tall, engaging the back, the torso, at the same time, bringing an element of calm to the body. And then beginning to open your eyes if you have them closed, and we're just going to start to warm up. So first of all, we're just going to take the head one ear towards the same shoulder, and then roll the neck down, the chin down towards the chest, and over to the other side in a little semicircle, and then back in the other direction. Starting nice and gently. So we're just being soft and easy with the body as we start to warm up. And just in your own time, keeping that half circle moving, noticing whether there's any tight spots in the neck, perhaps just pausing and gently rolling through any tightness that you might be feeling in the neck. Remembering to keep those shoulders down away from the ears as we do this. And just do one more roll to each side before bringing the head back to the middle, looking out in front of you. And then we're going to focus on the shoulders. Taking some lovely big shoulder rolls. We're going to start by going up, forwards, down, and back. You might want to release the arms here, just to allow your shoulders that freedom of movement. So we're rolling the shoulders forwards to begin with, trying to keep this up as nice and juicy, as big as you can. Noticing any tight spots in the shoulders. You might feel a little bit of clicking and cracking. You hold a lot of tension in the shoulders. So this is a really good thing just to do at any point in your day. If you're starting to feel tightness across the shoulders, or those shoulders creeping up toward the ears. One more in this direction, and then we're going to change direction, rolling up, back, down, and forwards. And with this direction, just see if you can start to open that chest as you roll the shoulders back, opening the chest to the front. Keeping that circle as big as you can. And then relaxing the shoulders all the way down. And we're going to take one big shoulder shrug here. So we're going to breathe in for 3 as we lift the shoulders all the way up to the ears. And then after 3, a big exhale, release the shoulders and drop everything back down. Here we go, breathing in, shrugging the shoulders all the way up, breathing in for 1, 2, 3, and then exhale and relax. And then from here, we're going to take the hands up towards the shoulders, lift the elbows to shoulder height, and just take some gentle torso twists. So starting to work around the spine, waking up the back, the sides of the body, and the front of the body, just gently twisting from one side to the other, trying to keep your head in line with your spine. Keeping those shoulders up, elbows up to shoulder height if you can. And at the same time, concentrating on keeping those shoulders down, away from the ears. One more on each side. And then coming back to the middle and releasing the arms. And we're going to take some gentle side stretches. So we're going to start a little bit more dynamic, just to warm the muscles up down the side of the body, and then we'll deepen the stretch a little bit further. So just starting by placing one hand on the floor next to you, reaching the other arm all the way up, and taking a gentle bend over to the side, and then swapping sides. So we're not pausing for too long here. We're thinking more about getting the muscles moving, starting to warm the body up, and then we'll deepen that stretch in a minute. So really thinking about reaching up and over, and keeping that chest open to the front, rather than closing down over the leg, which looks like everyone's doing a really lovely job back here. So you should be starting to feel a little bit of warmth down the side of the body, and a nice gentle stretch from the armpit all the way down to the hip. One more of these on each side, and then we're going to deepen the stretch a little bit further. So breathing in and reaching all the way up on the first side, making sure that we're reaching tall through the spine before taking that stretch deeper over to the side. And we're going to hold it here for 3 breaths. And with each out breath, see if you can sink a little bit lower into the side. If you want to come down onto the elbow, you can. And after 3 breaths here, swapping sides, big deep breath in to begin with, reaching tall, and then breathing out and deepening that stretch over to the side. 3 lovely big deep breaths. See if you can sink a little bit lower every time you breathe out. I'm trying to relax the supporting shoulder. So the arm you're leaning towards, try and relax that shoulder down away from the ear. And then coming back to the middle. And then from here, we're going to move on to all fours. So tucking the legs under, then coming onto your hands and knees. I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see a little bit more clearly what I'm doing here. So you want to make sure that your hands are underneath your shoulders, your knees are underneath your hips, And we're going to focus to begin with on a nice flat tabletop back. So rather than dropping the tummy and allowing the back to bend or arching the back up towards the sky, we're going to really focus on lengthening the back and creating a lovely flat tabletop position. So if I was to come along and place a glass of water on your back, you'd be able to balance it. And at the same time, while you're here, I want you just to think about beginning to engage those core muscles. So something I find really useful imagery is imagining all of the muscles in your stomach are like a big coat. So you've got muscles that wrap all the way around from the side, as well as the big muscles that run up in front. So I want you to imagine that you're wrapping a coat around your torso and then zipping up the front. And as you zip it up, I want you to think about drawing those muscles all the way up the front of the body. So we're just beginning to engage those muscles, supporting the back and helping to build strength in the core. And then from here, we're going to warm the back up with cat and cow pose. So starting, arching the back all the way up to the sky like a cat, stretching, looking down towards the floor. And then changing direction by dropping the pelvis, pushing the tummy down towards the floor and looking out ahead. And we'll work through those poses in your own time, nice and gently to begin with, and adding the breath in as well. So as you come to cow pose, we're going to breathe in, and then breathing out in cat pose. Breathing in as you open up to cow pose, and breathing out in cat pose. So keep that going. See if you can do 3 more pairs, and just really deepen that stretch each time, waking up the back, the pelvis, the shoulders, the neck and the head getting involved as well here. And last one if you're on your 3rd pair. And then we're going to come back to that neutral spine. So thinking about that pelvis being in the neutral position now, so it's not sitting back or under. Shoulders pressing away from the chest. So rather than dropping your chest through and putting lots of tension into the shoulders, you want to think about pressing all the way through, drawing those shoulders down towards the floor. And then from here, we're going to do a bird dog position. So this is a really good alternative we spoke about last week for your ankle. So this is engaging the core. It's also a little bit of a balance exercise. We're going to lift one arm and extend it out ahead of us at shoulder height. And then the opposite leg is going to extend away. So we're creating this lovely stretch from the fingertips diagonally across the body all the way to the opposite toe. And at the same time, we're engaging that core to help us balance and keeping the hips and the shoulders parallel to the floor. And then bringing the hand and the leg back in and swapping sides. So again, thinking about wrapping round and zipping up that coat, tummy muscles, help you hold and balance here, and then bring the hand and the leg back to the floor. We're going to do this 6 times with our breath now, so a little bit more dynamic. So here we go. We're going to breathe out as we extend, and in as we come back to the floor. Out as we extend, in as we come back to the floor. Breathing out, reaching, breathing in and coming back. Breathing out and reaching, breathing in and coming back. Keep going. Lovely, well done. And again, 4 more. 6 pairs of this. Hold on. So here we go, last 2. Excellent, well done. And then bringing the hand and the leg back to the floor for the last time. And then we're just going to push back into pose of a child, just to help relax and stretch out those tummy muscles. So I'm going to take my knees quite wide, just because I've got a baby bump to in the way, but if you want to keep your knees a little bit more parallel, then please do. If you need the space in the hips in order to relax back into the position, then do feel free to take the knees wider. So we're dropping the bottom back towards the heels, bringing the chest towards the floor, reaching the arms long away from you if you can, and relaxing the forehead down towards the floor. Now, if you find that you've still got a lot of tension in the shoulders, then please bring your hands in underneath the forehead and just create a little cushion with your fists for your forehead to rest on, so that we can really relax the neck and the shoulders. So this pose should be nice and relaxing. There shouldn't be lots of tension in the upper back. And then I want you to focus on dropping your bottom back towards your heels. So again, using that breath to help you relax through the hips, the legs, the knees, the bottom, reaching the bottom back towards the heels, and feeling that lovely two-way stretch. So the top of the back is stretching forwards towards the head, and the bottom of the back is stretching back towards the bottom of the heels. Lengthening the spine, taking some of the pressure off. So we spend a lot of our days stacking weight and pressure down through our spine. This is a really lovely exercise to release the back, stretch it out, take the weight off. Okay, and then nice and gently, just bringing yourself back up to kneeling. Nice and gently, so we're not getting any light heads. And then from here, we're just going to make our way up to standing. So just tucking the toes under, walking the hands back towards the feet, and starting to lengthen the legs, but keep the head hanging down towards the floor. If you can keep your feet hip distance apart, then please do. If you need to take them a bit wider, then take them a bit wider. And just make sure we've got a gentle bend in the knees. We're not blocking the knees out. We're just going to take 3 rounds of breath here. So again, the blocks might be useful for some of us here. If you want to, you can use a block. So just allow you to relax through the back by using them in any direction to bring the floor a little bit closer to you. If you're happy just reaching towards the floor, that's absolutely fine. You don't need to touch the floor. We're just aiming to reach towards the floor, helping to stretch out down the back of the legs and relax through the neck and the shoulders. So just before we begin to roll up, give your head a little nod, yes. A little shake, no. So relax through the neck and the shoulders a bit more. And then softening the knees a little bit further, we're going to start to roll up nice and slowly, tucking the tailbone under first, and then rolling through the lower back, imagining those vertebrae of the spine slowly stacking all the way up to the top of the back, and then last of all, stacking the head. And then just finishing with a big deep breath in, reaching all the way up to the sky, looking up towards your hands. Breathing out, and bringing your hands down the middle. Okay, so hopefully we're feeling a little bit warmer, a little bit more mobile. And from here, we're going to work on a little sequence. So we're going to start, I'm going to turn my mat now actually so that it's easier to see directions. We're going to start at the back of our mats. We're going to start hip distance apart with our feet. So I spoke about this last week, but for those that weren't here, a really good way to check your posture here for yourself, because we're all different shapes and sizes, is to take your fists, place them together, and then reach down and check that you can fit both fists between your hands. If the gap is too small, you need to take your feet a little bit wider. If you've got lots of space around your hands, then just bring your feet in a little way. So that should be the right positioning for your body and your proportions. And then we just want to think about trying to align the outside of our feet with the edge of the mat. So it's going to feel a little bit strange for some of us. It almost feels like you're slightly pigeon-toed because we're focusing on the outside edge being in line with the mat rather than the inside edge. Okay, and something else just to think about as we move through the routine is just to make sure in that slightly in-turned position that whenever you're bending your knees, they're still tracking over your toes and you're not letting them roll in towards each other. So really concentrating anytime we bend our knees to keep the knees tracking over the toes, going forwards rather than rolling in. Okay, so I'm going to just take my feet a little bit wider. So from here, we're going to start with a really lovely upright position. So just taking a moment to roll the shoulders up, back and down. And then from here, we're going to take a big deep breath in and reach the arms all the way up, looking up towards the hands, shoulders down away from the ears. And then breathing out and bringing the hands down the middle. And then from here, we're picking up one leg and stepping forwards in a long lunge, picking up the heel of the back foot if you can. If this is difficult on one side, you can keep a flat foot, but just turn the foot out to 45 degrees slightly. So we've got a little balance already beginning here. We're bending through the front leg, straight back leg, and just depending on how much of a challenge you want here, you might want to keep the legs quite close together to begin with. You might want to take a slightly wider step. And then from here, we're just going to add a little twist. So releasing the same arm as the leg that's in front, reaching that hand forwards, and then opening the arm out to the side, and then taking it behind you, twisting the torso towards that back hand, focusing if you can on the thumb of the back hand. So we're just adding a little bit more to the balance and adding a nice twist in as well. Trying to keep the hips facing forward, and we're just working on the twist through the torso and the chest. This is also a lovely chest opening exercise. Excellent. A couple of big deep breaths here. And then bringing the hands all the way back to the front and bringing the hands together. And then from here, we're going to drop the back heel and turn the back foot to 45 degrees. So the back foot is pointing out to the side of the mat at 45 degrees, and we're still facing forwards with the hips. Now, depending on your hips and how flexible you are, you might find it quite difficult to keep the hips facing forwards with the legs narrow. So if you are finding that a bit difficult, just take the front foot a little bit wider, create a little bit more space for the hips so that you can keep the hips facing forwards. And this is our warrior one pose. So again, the front knee is bent. The back leg is straight, we're pressing through the back heel into the floor, spreading the toes of the front foot, making sure that front knee is tracking over the front toes. And then from here, taking a big deep breath in, reaching all the way up over the head, dropping the shoulders down away from the ears. Taking 2 or 3 lovely big deep breaths here. And if you want to, you can see if you can just deepen the bend in that front knee as you breathe out. And then from warrior one, we're going to move into warrior two. So we're going to take the toes of the back foot out so they're now parallel with the back of the mat. Open the hips to the side and bring the arms out at shoulder height. We're now facing the side of the room. And the same again here, 2 or 3 lovely big deep breaths, making sure we're bending through that front leg, tracking the knee over the toes. And also just concentrating here not to let the bottom stick out behind. So keeping that pelvis tucked under, shoulders and pelvis in line. So after a couple of big deep breaths here, we're going to move back to warrior one. So turning the back toes in, bringing the hips to the front, and then sweeping the arms up. And just see if you can go a little bit deeper here. Noticing those legs starting to warm up and also working quite hard. And then from here, we're going to try and move through our center point to bring the weight forwards to come into warrior three. So you can either walk the back foot forwards and bring the arms down, Or if you want a little bit more of a challenge, you can try just lifting the back foot straight away and coming into warrior three. So here the aim is to try and keep those hips facing the floor. We're lifting the back foot off the floor as much as you can. If it's just a centimetre to begin with, that's absolutely fine. Finding a spot in front of you to focus on and keeping that breath flowing in and out. Holding your breath is only going to make you wobble more here. If you need to touch your toe down and take a breath and regain your balance at any time, please do. If you want a little bit more of a challenge here, we can start to lift the back leg and drop the chest forwards. Breathing, making sure we're keeping those hips down towards the floor. And then after 2 or 3 breaths, reaching the back toes back and stepping back into that lunge. Sweeping up to warrior one more time. And then just nice and easily bringing the legs back together at the back. Whatever you need to do there, take a few steps. Bring back to the back of the mat, ready to do the same thing all on the other side. So sit, please take a water whenever you need to. Okay, so just before we begin, have a think about which leg you stepped forwards on. This time, we're going to step forwards into that lunge on the other leg. So here we go, feet hip distance apart, standing tall. Shoulders up, up and down. Big deep breath in, reaching all the way up. And then breathing out, and bringing the hands down the middle. Stepping forwards on the other leg. Coming into your long lunge with back heel lifted or 45 degrees. And then from here, extending the same arm as the leg that's in front. And then opening the arm out to the side, twisting through the torso. Trying to keep those hips and knees facing forwards. And breathing here. Balancing, finding that spot to focus on. If you're looking at your thumb, try to keep your thumb nice and still. If you wiggle your thumb around, it's going to mess with your balance. And then bringing that arm all the way back to the front. And bringing the hands back together. And then dropping the back heel, turning the toes to 45 degrees, keeping the hips facing forwards. Sweeping the arms all the way up to warrior one. Breathing in, and then breathing out and sinking down. 2 or 3 breaths here. Now if you're finding that your knee is quite far forwards, you might just want to bring that foot, keep those toes forward a little bit, so that you can deepen into that lunge without putting too much stress on the front knee. And then from here, we're opening to warrior two, so turning those back toes to parallel with the back of the mat, opening the hips to the side, keeping that tailbone tucked under, stretching the arms out, keeping the energy flowing all the way through to the fingertips, so we're not forgetting about the hands. And with each breath, see if we can sink a little bit lower. And then we're moving through the middle back to warrior one. So just turning those back toes to 45 degrees again, lifting the arms up overhead, making sure those shoulders are drawing down away from the ears. And breathing here. And then from here, we're going to move through the center, bringing our weight forward into warrior three. So either just lifting the toe or stepping the back toe in and then lifting just off the floor to begin with. Standing strong in that other leg, reaching the toes away from you. So trying to keep the lifted leg straight. Thinking about making sure those hips are facing the floor. And then if you want a little bit more of a challenge, bringing that weight forward and lifting the back heel. Just a little bit at a time to begin with. We're moving nice and slowly as you tip forwards. The more quickly we take that movement, the more chance we're going to knock our balance. Finding a spot ahead of you on the floor to focus on, and keep that breath flowing in and out. Reaching down whenever you need to, using those arms to help the balance. And then stepping all the way back onto that back leg, back into warrior one, sweeping the arms all the way up, down. See if you can go a little bit lower again. You need to creep those toes forwards to make space. And then just gently bringing the feet back together and coming to the back of your mat. And just finishing the sequence with a big deep breath in, reaching all the way up. And breathing out, and we're going to take a full fold here, bringing the fingertips towards the floor. And with your next in-breath, going up to a half fold, stretching through the back, trying to recreate that flat back from our tabletop position on the floor. But this time, hands are on the thighs, feet are on the floor, reaching out the top of the head. And then with your next out breath, fold all the way back down towards the floor. And just taking a moment to relax here, stretching through the back of the legs. If you want to, we can think about crossing the arms here, just to add a little bit of weight. And then just gently rocking from side to side, releasing through the back, and remembering to relax the neck and the head. And then really nice and slowly, softening the knees and starting to uncurl all the way up to standing. One more big deep breath in as we reach all the way up in the head. And then breathing out. Hands down the middle. Excellent, well done. So there's some of our key poses in that sequence. I hope just slowing it down a little bit this week, just gave a bit of a reminder of the technique that we need in some of those poses to keep our knees safe. From here, we're just going to stretch out some of those muscles that have been working really hard. So coming back down to the floor, just take your time. Come down to the floor nice and slowly. And we're just going to stretch out through the bottom and the hips and the legs. So bringing your feet together in front of you. Soles of the feet together, knees out towards the side. Now, depending again on your flexibility, you might find your knees are quite high here. They might be quite close towards the floor. It doesn't matter. If you're finding this position a bit tricky, again, you can use a block to place under your bottom just to lift that pelvis a bit higher and allow a little bit more space in the hips. You can also just take those legs a little bit further away. So just find the position that works for you. And then from here, we're going to think about sitting up really tall through the spine like we did at the beginning. Rolling the shoulders up, back and down. And just that in itself should start to create a little bit of a stretch through the hips. If you want a little bit more here, breathing in and reaching tall through the head, and breathing out and beginning to fold forward from the hips. So to begin with, we're thinking about keeping the back in a nice straight line and just tipping from the hips, stretching into the hips a little bit deeper, and holding it here. And then as you breathe, I want you to think about relaxing through the hips and sending the knees out and down. So just allowing the gravity to work on those knees, pulling them out towards the side. Taking a couple of lovely big deep breaths here before seeing if you can just shift forwards a little bit further. And when you start to feel that that back has reached its limit and it's starting to round, then the next one, I want you to go with it, round the back, drop the forehead towards the feet, and relax here. And you'll just feel that stretch shift a little bit further round, into the back, into the center, running down into the bottom muscles. And then nice and gently bringing the body back up. And then we're going to extend one leg out in front and shift the stretch into the leg. So keeping one leg tucked in and the other leg in front. And then taking a big deep breath in and reaching all the way up. Sitting tall and then reaching forwards towards the toes. If you can take hold of the toes, do, otherwise reach for the thigh or the shin. And just try to draw that chest towards the leg. And again, using that breath. So each time you breathe in, think about lengthening. And each time you breathe out, think about sinking down and relaxing. You should start to feel a lovely stretch down the back of the leg. Any kind of tingly sensation is the nerves stretching as well. We don't really think about that very often. We think a lot about our muscles, but we kind of forget about the fact that our nerves also run the whole length of our bodies. They need a stretch too. And then swapping sides. So bringing that leg back in and then extending the other leg. Breathing in and reaching up, sitting tall. Making sure the shoulders are down away from the ears before reaching forwards towards the toes. And again, you don't have to be holding onto the toes. You can take on the thigh or the shin, the ankle, wherever feels good for you to go. If you are reaching towards the toes, see if you can bring your hand a little bit further towards the little toe, so that you're bringing the outside edge of the foot in towards the body, rather than pulling the inside of the foot and twisting the ankle, sort of keeping that ankle nice and supported. You might feel that's a slightly deeper stretch as well. And then rolling back up to sitting. And this time we're going to bring the legs in, bend the knees and place the feet in front of you. And you can keep your feet hip distance apart, please do. Take the feet a bit wider. And from here, we're just going to do another glute and hip stretch. So we're going to lift one leg, place the ankle on top of the other knee, flex the toes, and then place the hands behind you. Take the weight of your body into the hands a little way. And then just to increase that stretch in increments, you can either walk the underneath foot towards you, bringing the stretch deeper into the hip, or you can press through the arms and bring the torso towards the leg. You can do a bit of both. And again, we're thinking about letting the bent top knee drop out towards the sides, trying not to hold any tension in that hip and knee, keeping it nice and relaxed. Give it a little bit of a wiggle and a bounce if you're struggling to relax through the hip there. Just release that tension. And again, trying not to then create loads of tension in the shoulders. So keeping the shoulders down away from the ears, pressing through the hands. And then gently releasing that top leg and swapping sides. So bringing the other foot on top, keeping the ankle, foot flex. That just helps us to protect the knee joints. Pressing through the hands. And then just finding that stretching point for you by bringing your foot in, bringing the torso forwards. You might find that one side is a bit tighter than the other. You might notice one knee slightly closer in towards the body than the other. That's perfectly normal. Most of us have a dominant side, and that tends to be the side of our body where the muscles are a little bit tighter. And that's why in yoga we really try to work nice and evenly on both sides of the body. So bring a little bit more balance back to the body. And then releasing that foot And bringing the feet back to the floor. And then from here, we're just going to lower ourselves onto the floor. So keeping the knees where they are, unless you're going to be lying on the floor, you might want to shift so that you're at the front of your mat. You've got plenty of space on the mat behind you. And then we're just gently going to lower down onto the floor. So bringing the elbows first. And then lowering the torso. Down. Keeping the knees bent. And we're just going to take some gentle hip rocks. So we're going to let the knees flop out to one side. And then bring them back to the middle. And let them flop out to the other side. And keep that moving. Massaging the bottom and the hips on the floor. If you want to think about your breathing here as well, breathing in as we come up and breathing out as we relax over to the sides. You might start to feel this working into the lower back as well. And then we're just going to take this a little bit further by adding in the top leg. So next time you come up to the top, I want you to release the knees over to one side as normal, and then the top leg is going to swing over the top, drawing a little semicircle along the floor, and then coming all the way back, bringing the knees up with it, and then changing sides. So if you can keep that toe along the floor, I'd rather it was a smaller circle on the floor, but you're keeping the toe down, then a bigger circle with the toe lifted. So we're really thinking about lengthening and stretching through the hip. And then at the same time, if you can, see if you can bring your arms up to shoulder height. And as the top leg swings over, feel that stretch through the opposite shoulder into the chest, trying to keep the shoulders pressing down into the floor. One more on each side. And then bringing the knees back up to the top. And then taking the feet nice and wide so they're at least as wide as your mat. And resting your knees in towards each other. And then from here, we're going to start to think about relaxing the body, releasing any last bits of tension. So this pose is really good for the lower back. If you find you have a lot of tension in the lower back, any lower back issues, this is a really safe position. So resting the knees in together and keeping them bent just allows the lower back to relax and release. So just taking a few deep breaths here. And as you do, just think about the back sinking into the floor. But what I don't want you to do is think about pressing the lower back down into the floor. A nice relaxed neutral spine should just have a slight curve towards the bottom of the back. You should be able to just slide the fingers partway underneath your back. But sometimes it can be a bit misleading and people think you need to press the back into the floor, but that's going to create lots of tension in your lower back. Got a lovely natural curve there, but it just needs to be allowed to do its thing. And then I want you to think about bringing your shoulder blades down and in underneath you. So you're creating a little platform for your body to rest on. And again, that should help to relax and release in the back. So sometimes we think we need to spread and flatten everything onto the floor, but actually we need to create a little bit of support and then we can relax on the top. And then from here, if your lower back is feeling good, we're going to think about stretching those legs away from you. Just allowing them to take a natural position, So they might not be hip distance apart here, wherever's comfortable for you, and then allowing the feet and the hips to turn out and flop out to the sides. Taking your hands out to the side and just allowing the palms to roll up towards the side. Hands relaxing with the fingertips slightly curling in towards the palm. And then from here, we're going to work all the way up the body, relaxing and releasing any last bits of tension we might be holding. So starting from the toes, I want you to think about curling the toes in towards the soles of the feet, scrunching the feet up, squeezing, squeeze, 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 big breath in, and then breathing out, and relaxing, and sending any last bits of tension in the feet down and away into the ground. And then moving to the legs, and thinking about hugging the muscles of the leg tight to the bones, and tensing those leg muscles, squeezing them tight, squeeze, 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 and then taking a big deep breath in, breathing out, and relaxing those leg muscles. And letting any last bit of tension in the legs flow down and away into the ground. And then moving to the hands, curling the fingers in towards the palms, scrunching the hands into the fist. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Big breath in. And then breathing out and relaxing. Sending any last bit of tension in the hands, down and away into the ground. And then moving to the arms. Hugging the muscles of the arms tight to their bones. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And relax. And the last bits of tension in the arms, down and away into the ground. And then moving to the face. Squeezing the eyes shut, scrunching the nose up, pressing the lips together. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Big breath in. And then breathing out and relaxing. Sending any last bits of tension in the face, down, away into the ground. And then if you want to, bringing the hands to the tummy, I'm just going to focus back on the breath. Feeling the rise and the fall of the tummy as you breathe. We're going to come back to those deep breaths we started with, but this time we're just going to deepen the breaths even further by helping with our tummies. So as we breathe in, I want you to think about pressing your tummy up into your hand, pushing it up towards the sky. And as you breathe out, drawing the tummy all the way back down towards the floor. So we're really using our hands here to help us feel what's going on. And that's just going to help us take some slightly deeper breaths. So using the abdomen to create space for the diaphragm to move, the lungs to expand, and fill with air. So let's do 3 breaths like that all together. Here we go. Big deep breath in through the nose, pushing the tummy up towards the sky. Feel it pressing into the hands. In. And then breathing out through the mouth, letting the tummy sink all the way back down. Helping to push out any last bits of used air for the lungs. And again, big deep breath in. Pressing the tummy into the hands, up towards the sky, breathing in, filling those lungs, and then breathing out and letting the tummy sink all the way back down. Last time, see if you can make this the longest cycle of breath Big deep breath in all the way to the bottom of the lungs, tummy pushing up towards the thigh. Breathing in. Out. Nice, slow out breath, feeling the tummy sinking all the way back now. And then just allowing your breath to pull back into a nice, natural rhythm. But just keeping the attention on the breath, noticing the gentle rise and fall in your tummy, in your chest, the sensation of the air passing in and out, the sound of your breath. And as you lie here, I just want you to bring your attention back to yourselves, your bodies, and your minds. Just take a moment to notice whether you're feeling any different from the beginning of the session. There's no right or wrong answer here. It's just about observing and noticing. And then we're just going to spend a few minutes trying to bring a little bit of calm to our minds. So working through a yoga sequence can be really a really good mindfulness exercise. Any kind of physical exercise is really good for occupying the mind enough that some of those busy thoughts and feelings that bounce around our heads all day are quietened. We're focusing on our breath, on our technique, on our posture, and some of those other thoughts and feelings can be suppressed. Allowing us to just be present with ourselves, with our bodies. But sometimes it takes a little bit more just to help calm the mind. So we're going to go a little exercise to help with that today. But just noticing how busy your mind is feeling right now. Having lots of